Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading of Threads of Time by C.N. Jackson, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me. Prologue. I'm Wilda Firestone, temporal agent turned costume shop owner. I traded the wormhole hustle for fitting people who take time travel vacations, serving the who's who of society who like to mess with the fabric of the universe, and the occasional normal person who can scrape up the cash. Then one day, some time-tossed, deathly ill misfit lands on my doorstep. Suddenly, time travelers across the board were dropping like flies. And guess who got conscripted back into the time circus to play detective? Yours truly, Wilda. My assistant and best friend, Matea, got roped in with me for a temporal globetrot. First stop, the court of Mansa Musa in the 14th century Mali. Then we got shuttled into 10th century Maine, and even got a dose of 12th century Orkney in Scotland, a real tour de times. Turns out the culprit behind this whole mess was a humble fungus that got aspirations of becoming a killer when it got zapped through the time machine. But despite its modest origins, finding its source was a haunting and downright hair-raising experience. Along the way, we bumped into the infuriating Sir Algernon St. Clair, some hotshot British cop who was elbow deep in his own time travel investigation. The thrill of the chase led us to seize a rogue time machine in Nabsom's scion, turning a quick buck peddling contraband fungus to modern gourmands. But that was just the tip of the cosmic iceberg. There were whispers of a mole and pendulum, the precinct of enforcement and nexus of discipline, uniformity, and legislation under Maxim law. What's more, there's evidently a whole underworld of renegade time machines. The keeper wound down, trials happened, and the bad guys got their due. But just when I thought I could hang up my time boots, my boss Pembley decided to slap me with a training mission. And guess who wanted to play temporal agent? Good old Sir Algernon. The cherry on top, the mission was a trip to meet one of my ancestors. Normally, this is a strict no-no in the Maxims, but who needs retirement when you can unravel the space-time continuum, right? Chapter 1. The doorbell to my time tourist garbing shop chimed as someone walked in. I leaned back from the lace I was painstakingly repairing by hand to peer down the long room and into the reception area. Jerry was on the phone, so the new arrival stood waiting. An attractive young man, perhaps around 30, long, straight blonde hair to match his tall, lean frame. He held a baseball cap in his hands, and he was wringing it so hard I worried he might tear it in two. A first-timer, then. I narrowed my eyes, trying to guess where and when he wanted to go. Taryn nudged me from the next table. What do you think? Vikings? He's got that Nordic look. I took a sip of my coffee and kept staring. Most young travelers choose the exciting times, the ones with wars and revolutions. She shrugged. Vikings created the wars, didn't they? Or at least raids. Or maybe he wants to go somewhere off-type, like pre-European Australia. I gave her a quelling glance. You know that isn't allowed, not with his skin tones. Once the Europeans arrived, he wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb, but it would be against the Maxims to go before. Jerry finally finished his phone call and spoke in a cheery voice. Good afternoon. How can I help you today? I still had no idea how he maintained manners, optimism, and cheer throughout the whole day, and he didn't even drink coffee. Some secret superhero power. Maybe he was the seventh son of a seventh son. Then the new visitor's words caught my attention. 12th century Ireland. This wasn't a popular destination by any means. As far as I know, I've never even outfitted anyone for that time and place. I sauntered up near the door to hear him more clearly, though I kept out of sight. His voice was rich and curled around the words as though he seemed very hesitant. I've traced my ancestry from the Norse, who settled in Limerick. I've always dreamed of learning how they actually lived. I learned blacksmithing techniques so I could actually practice a trade during the trip. Fascinating. That already showed a great deal of forethought most travelers never even considered. I was intrigued by this young man. Drinking the last dregs, I placed my mug on Terrence's table and walked out into the reception area. Hello, Jerry. Do you have a new traveler for me? I do indeed. This is Ian Morris. He's eager to explore the 12th century around Limerick. Turning to the young man, I gave him my best silent glare, the one that made even the most confident folks nervous. But this guy was already so jumpy that I couldn't see any change. Fair enough. Come with me and let's get you garbed up. I led Ian through the main shop, a long, narrow room with 5 workstations in the form fitter 3000. Taryn was working at her table, hemming a new sarai, while I pushed aside my lace project and pulled out a notebook. My assistant let out an exasperated sound. Wilda, use the pad, please, so I don't have to re-enter everything when you're done. I rolled my eyes and picked up the fancy schmancy electronic notepad she'd bought for me. I hated the thing. What was wrong with pen and paper? That technology hadn't changed for centuries. Sometimes I hated modern times. Right. So is there a particular year within the 12th century you're searching for? A particular ancestor you want to meet? He shook his head. Oh, no, not that. I know we're not supposed to seek out our actual ancestors. I don't even know their names. I just wanted to live like they would have to get a feel for the time. Nodding with approval, I took some notes. Well, I tried to, but the damn stylus wouldn't work. I shook it a few times and tried again, then again, shaking harder. Taryn plucked the stylus from my hand, pressed the button on the back, and handed it back without a word. I sent her a scowl and wrote my notes. Grand, let me get your measurements and then we'll pull a few outfits for you. Turning to the round brass machine next to me, I turned the wheel and opened the circular door. Do you mind stepping into the form fitter 3000? You'll need to remove your clothing, place them into a cubicle, and then place your feet on each plate there. Grasp the brass handles and shout out when you're ready. His eyes grew wide and his gaze flicked to the door as if searching for an escape route. Taryn said, Don't worry, it's perfectly safe and the best, fastest way we have of getting your precise measurements. Really, it is. Ian visibly gulped and stepped inside. After a few minutes, he shouted, Ready. I flipped the brass lever. The machine said, commencing measurements. Some folks shouted or gasped when the form fitter 3000 covered them in an easily dissolvable foam. Ian did neither, and I commended his restraint. He might make an excellent traveler despite his nerves. When he emerged, freshly dressed, I downloaded the readings and added them to his traveler note file. Right, now let's get the schedule. I turned to the wall and pulled down the edge of a smart glass calendar board. I swiped left about 6 times before I found an open week. How about 7 weeks from now? That would make it the end of August. Does that suit your schedule? Ian gave a quick nod and his eyes flicked to the doorway again. Are you expecting someone, or are you traveling with a companion who hasn't arrived yet? He shook his head. No, nothing like that. Sorry. Now he bowed his head in penitence. Maybe he was too meek after all. No matter. A few weeks in Viking Limerick would cure him of that.